call to order of the Shade Tree Commission meeting dated October 24th, 2024. If we could have a roll call, please.
5:21 p.m.
5:21, yes. All right, so Rob,
Here.
Dan, absent. Mr. Rice, are you on the line? Okay. All right, and Carol?
Here.
Trish is here. All right. All right, so we have a quorum. If we could pause for a moment of silence and then we'll stand for Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda, or does anybody have any suggested changes? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, the minutes from last meeting, September 26th, 2024. Has everybody had a chance to review them? And if so, does anybody have any changes? I don't. Okay, so I make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 26th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving on to land development review, discussion and possible recommendation of the land development application for, better put my glasses on, 4605 West Chester Pike. And I think that's Boron, sorry. I didn't have any issues, given the fact that there are no trees being removed, and we have John's report. Did you want to go ahead, John, and give us the lowdown?
Yeah, the only correction I need on the plan is the peripheral trees need to be shown on the plan. There are no trees being removed, but they still need to show the trees as per the requirements for the inventory of all trees, inches or greater. Other than that, they are compliant.
Okay, so that's more on the land development side that they have to provide that, correct? So that really doesn't pertain to us, so we really don't have any issues, so I guess we just will make a motion, okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the land development application as it relates to shade trees for the 4605 West Chester Pike project. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Oh,
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Okay. Moving on to new business. Have we given some thought to Arbor Day and what we would like to do?
Are we doing another tree planting like we're
Yes.
doing?
depending upon what the finances, the money situation is. So it took a lot of money to do this planting that we're doing in early November. I think Arbor Day should be more traditional. I mean, we can do a couple of trees, but I don't want to do 38 trees.
Right.
For Arbor Day, I'd rather do, something, smaller and then save the big thing for the fall. We haven't done this yet. We'll have to see how it goes.
Well, we had,
There should be 10-ish trees extra if they're not gone by then for the spring.
So that
If we're
would-
getting extra.
Yeah, that's, so we have the trees, so we don't have to actually buy.
Buy trees. In the spring, we should
Yeah.
have trees.
Depending upon.
I did speak to the guy today that we'd probably be doing another tree thing. I thought it was for Arbor Day, but if it's put off, I mean, they don't care.
But we know would do the same sort of a thing for the fall, but, spring, it'd be nice to give ourselves a little break.
So we had talked about, doing another tree, that we would do 2 tree plantings, maybe a year, that it would be, but the fall would be the big one, and then for Arbor Day, we would do another one. And, in keeping with the spirit of Arbor Day, it's more about education and stuff, so we could have that aspect incorporated into it as well. I don't know, actually, I haven't really given it too much thought. But if we have extra trees left over, and we talked about, remind me, where were we gonna plant them? Was it gonna be in the parks, or, because we were like, well, we've done it at the parks and it's getting overloaded.
Mr. Hosback, have you got any, pet areas you think we should cover for Arbor Day?
I knew they were gonna plant trees behind the building where they took down the pines over here. I don't know if they're already allocated. Cause I know I talked to George too, cause he has 2 big locust trees in there. He'd like to get out of the nursery. 'Cause- yeah, maybe move them on the other side or something.
So how about instead of, because I don't feel like I have a good idea, and it doesn't sound like you have a suggestion, you have some ideas. And since Dan isn't here and John isn't here, how about if what we do is an action item, we put it on the agenda for next week, we punt this to next month. And then, so our homework would be to think about Arbor Day and have some ideas. And I know we talked about this at the last meeting. I'll look back at the video because I can't remember what we talked about. Because that was like 4 weeks ago. What do you guys think about that?
What, table till next month?
Yeah.
Yeah, it don't have to be immediate.
Okay. All right, and then I will have an action item to send an email to everybody, just as information only with this homework assignment. Okay. All right. Okay. And so the next item is discussion and possible action on plans and goals for 25. You have any thoughts?
Obviously, tree inventory, we ever get around
Yep.
to it.
Oh yeah, what is the status of the?
That's the
Yes.
next section.
Oh, we'll get there. Okay. Oh, yeah, so.
Well,
tree-
this is for next year.
Yeah, but we're gonna actually do the tree inventory since we've only been talking about doing it for 4 years now.
How about we do, like you suggested, possible drive around, do like a hazard risk. and
Oh,
note
yes.
Hazardous trees.
So,
Did we do that, Andy?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I was taking notes, so.
I knew you were like not listening to what I was saying, but like Trish had a big tree fall across Gradyville Road a few weeks ago.
it wasn't my
Again.
tree.
I mean, out of the woods it fell or whatever,
No,
obviously.
it was on my neighbor's property and it fell across
No, it went the other way. It came out of the woods across the street.
really?
Yeah. So anyway, and she suggested, is Is it okay as a commission, could we go around and like look and say if we saw like dead trees overhanging the right of way, could we do that? Just note them to you so you could send them a letter? Is that okay to do that? One of the things we could do?
I think the current notice puts those powers in your hands,
Okay,
and then we can certainly make people aware of that situation. I mean, I think that we've been trying to do that,
yeah,
but I would agree
Like
that
obvious
that
stuff.
should be the procedure. If you're seeing hazardous trees
yeah,
that could become that are dangerous, let us know. Give us the property address.
all right.
You know, if we can, some of the problems that I think we all experience is we don't always know where the property lines are. So we've got to feel our way through that.
Right. That's,
But yeah, I
it's
think that
okay to
would
do
be
that.
a
so we
fair
could put that
process.
Down to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess who in each car could drive around, take like
Yeah.
a neighborhood and just drive around or something like that. So then you wouldn't have to advertise it. It wouldn't be
Open it up to the whole township.
Right. So I did notice that there was someone walking up and down Gradyville Road, looking at trees. And I don't know if they were with Pico or what. I don't think they were with the township at all, but they were there 2 days in a row actually doing that. And because there's a number of ash trees on private property within the right of way that are dead or dying. And so I don't know if they were doing a hazard assessment but I saw that one tree had like a white ribbon around it, so I don't.
Does the state send people out, John? They do. They could be just doing a random thing or even Davy does resources, does Pico, because Aspen can't do it, because they have to have third party. Oh, they are doing it going around right now, so that's probably what it was. Okay,
Yellow, have you seen yellow or orange?
That was white. No, that's what okay.
are you talking Davy or you're talking the state? Yeah.
That's weird.
Nobody of any forestry.
So
Okay.
you're saying the state's going around or?
None of those entities are going to use white.
No, what I'm saying is the state going around, or Davy's going around?
Probably both.
Both?
Both are working, yeah.
Okay,
White now throws it off.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it
it could have
maybe-
been that the person might have called it in to and said, I marked it in white or something. It could have called,
That's all they had.
the vegetation, could have called the Aspen, Pico, the vegetation, they might have sent someone out and says, I put a white ribbon around it so he knows what trees in question. That may be the white, just a homeowner doing it, not.
Yeah, I don't know. So, the tree that fell on Green, was it a poplar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was alive? and
Yeah, it was a
healthy?
lot.
It just fell over?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how those ash trees are just still sticking around.
Oh, they'll come down, especially as dry as it is, trust me. They are bad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my power was out a long time. But they worked really hard to get it restored, so they did an excellent job. All right, so what else did we, we had a list of things from last month. What, minutes? Oh, we have it in the minutes. Oh, go figure, right?
Should be. Thought we had it.
Okay, so at any rate, so let's punt that as a homework assignment too. Think about things that we want, but I like, of course, we're gonna do tree inventory, tree hazard. Let's think about other things. I'll put this in the email out to everybody so that they can be.
It was right here. What was approved for 2024? Still questions. For twenty
That was
twenty-five, money
budget.
for.
That's all
oh,
budget stuff.
okay, never, yeah, okay, you're right. I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. It's fine.
Yeah, we
There's-
just
there's
punted it
no-
off to,
Yeah,
we
let's,
just forwarded it to this month is what we did.
okay. Oh, okay, so we're gonna need to do that again. Okay. Alrighty then. Okay. Did you have any more ideas? Do you have some thoughts of what, Andy, is there anything that you guys can think of that you would like us to be working on? Is there?
One of our goals should be ordinance.
Well, that's the next agenda
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, the problem is we don't have everybody here.
We have a quorum. So neither John nor Dan provided any other input that was not captured at the August meeting. So they were here for that. This is just my job, which I failed to do admittedly, so that's my fault, is that I didn't put that, yeah, I didn't put it together in time for the meeting. I have it here, sent it, and it's not anything we hadn't already discussed. So I think we're good in that regard. Okay. Really? Is there anything from the township perspective that you have, going on in 25 that you think that?
Nothing is fine that would really involve a broader goal than this committee.
So the only thing that I was thinking is that if we do finally get the new ordinance, then we need to do more outreach on getting the word out that we have an ordinance and what the process is and why and stuff like
I
that.
mean, I think we. Sure, Tim. I mean, I guess, I think we had talked about it earlier in, maybe a year or so ago, but, I don't think that the ordinance prevents you from reaching out to private property owners, and I'm gonna just use like SAP as an example. They have a lot of lawn area in the front, so although they may not fall within the right of way, I don't think that there's any problem with reaching out to them and saying, can you create a little additional planted area with trees just to promote new, active, healthy trees on the property, which is currently mostly lawn. It has to just be maintained. So I mean, I don't think that that's prohibited in the ordinance of this committee doing such things. The other thing that I looked at is I was actually coming out of an inspection the other day, and I see, and I know that the Ellis Preserve sometimes gets a lot of heat about the development, but if you go over there and you look, there's a lot of quality trees that have been planted there on this project. And I think I mean, as they mature, I think it's really going to be a benefit. So, I mean, things like that, like making sure they're well maintained. I think that's could be another goal of the committees.
So, but I pointed out the problem with a lot of the trees that are on, over here on, Commerce Boulevard. And they've got the volcanoes of mulch, and you can totally tell that those trees are kind of struggling because of, and the mulching practices are just continue to get exacerbated every year. And I had brought that up before, and I was told we can't do anything about that, even though those trees are appear to me at least to be in the right of way. And they were probably part of a land development action. So they don't look in great shape to me. So
Well-
I don't know. I
I
mean,
mean, I don't know where you got that direction from, and I certainly wouldn't want to overstep my position here. But the way I read the ordinance is you're responsible for all trees in the right of way,
right,
okay? So you can, I think you can take an affirmative action for all of those trees. If there are other trees that go outside the bounds of the right of way, I don't think you're necessarily prohibited from trying
asking,
to make an educational outreach to those property owners to better care for the trees that they have on their property through what may have been through a landscaping plan. So I guess what I'm saying is you have to differentiate between what you have authority over and can take strict action on through the ordinance and what you can make as an educational outreach to
and
people.
ask.
So it's to make an
So-
ask for it.
Right.
And I think you'll find that in most cases, when you make that ask, a lot of these property owners, especially the commercial property owners with big properties, are probably going to be thankful because, you know, replacing them, those trees, if they do die because of improper care, don't have to replace them, right? So you're just educating them because you're more focused on that. So I think it's a matter of approach.
So. But I think Rich was the one that said we couldn't do that. Cause I made some comment, I'd asked, can we just clarify with him to make sure, cause I'm quite frankly getting.
I would
tired of
agree. I
being
think
told.
I think that if you need clarification, we should get that clarification from Rich. We can leave it there. We can get
Okay.
that clarification. I just think that there's two distinct paths.
Right,
One is a formal action
Mhm.
driven by an ordinance, and one is more an educational outreach because your committee is
Well,
developed
we're
for that
right,
purpose.
and we're providing a recommendation, and hey, if you're interested in improving the aesthetics of your property and contributing to the blah, 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 blah benefits trees, insert, would you be open to, is there a way that, because then they're gonna come back and say, well, yeah, do you have any money for that? And it's like, no, but is there a way that maybe we could partner with a like a wholesaler, Rob, and we need to be careful about, that well, could we, I mean, I don't know if you guys have the same restrictions we do with this, but I mean, could we recommend, it's like, well, if you buy them from this wholesaler or this nursery, they will give you a whatever discount if we're partnering with them because they've agreed to do that to give but I don't know if that's legal or not, or if there's issues with that.
Well, again, I think if you're talking about goals for 2025, I think that could be your goal to get clarification on what you can legally do in order to partner and give the ability to for not only the committee, but also for other parties of interest to partner with a wholesaler to get a better deal on the purchase of trees and the supplies that go along with it.
Right. Okay. So it's basically because I think we need to provide some sort of incentive, otherwise people aren't probably going to be all that willing to do it. Okay. Rainy. Okay. So we're not going to take any action on this. Chew on it for next meeting, everybody, and I'll send out an email just as kind of bulleting what we're gonna talk about next month and maybe plan on coming prepared with some ideas and then we can take action at that point. And then do we need to, I guess, what's the deadline in order to get that? Because I think Steve usually asks for that because he presents it to the board of supervisors. Is there a deadline when we need to have that in?
Yeah, I think anything that is budget related should get to Stephen. I know the goal is to present a proposed budget at the November 12th board meeting.
Okay.
So they would need to have any suggestions at least a week before then.
Right, so we've already,
In fact, the sooner the better.
right, so I think we've already, well, that's coming up on a next agenda item, but I think we're gonna be able to do that probably tonight. And, because at least with the things that we had talked about was basically the main budget thing we were gonna ask for was for the big tree planting in fall. That was, the rest of it was sort of ancillary. I think this other stuff we're talking about isn't really anything that requires money to do. Okay, it'd be more the past.
And I'm pretty certain that I saw in the budget, at least on the limited basis that I have view, is that number for the big purchase was in.
Okay, yeah, because we had talked about that before and Stephen had asked that we combine what the EAC had asked and it was all gonna come to us.
Right.
Okay, okay, that's good. All right. Okay, moving on. We don't have time. All right, okay, so next on the agenda, old business, update regarding the Shade Tree Ordinance revision. So, so there really aren't any, so the big change that I made was based on what we had talked about at our August meeting. And it was mainly to some of the definitions. So the comments that we have in here stand, but the ones I just want to bring out that are sort of like to make sure you guys are okay with was about the shade tree definition. And that is in 128-1. Yeah, 158, section 158-1.
Yeah.
Where the definitions are. And we had we had discussion about having native species being in the shade tree definition, and we had talked about that that approved natives species should be stricken from the definition because that would really limit it to native species only. So maybe if there is a non-native species that isn't an invasive within the right of way, we still couldn't get that. That wouldn't be covered by the ordinance. So I added a comment to kind of reiterate and the rationale behind that. And also, what was it, the other one? Oh, the invasive tree, that was the other thing that we had talked about and what I said I would include in this updated revision. So the comment that I put in was that we recommend that invasive trees not be excluded from the requirements of the shade tree ordinance, because trees within the right of way, regardless if they're invasive or not, should fall under this way the bad tree will be replaced by a good tree. So you guys, I don't know if that captures it. It's a little unclear. I apologize. It was early in the morning when I wrote this. Remember our discussion about that?
Yes.
Are you good with that? Are you good with the change to the shade tree definition? Oh, yeah, and the other thing with the shade tree definition is because having approved in there would make it suggest that somehow there's no process for approving a shade tree. So that didn't seem out of place. So it'd be like any tree in the right of way could fall into the ordinance. And that includes invasives, because let's just say there's like pear tree and it had to come out, we would want that replaced by a good tree, right?
So,
Okay. All right. And then the other thing was we had talked about the removal of trees, and that's in 158-4E. So we were unclear that, because the way that it's written, it suggests that, that we will make recommendations to the board, maybe requiring property owners to cut or remove dangerous trees located on private property. So and I struck that and put in the right of way, because our commission only has responsibility for trees in the right of way, not anywhere else on somebody's private property, is my understanding. So making that clarification aligns it better with the rest of the ordinance, in my opinion. And also I added that, if a tree was cut down, if a tree was considered a hazard tree, then it should be replaced.
One that has a tree.
If it was a hazard tree and it was cut down, then there should be a requirement for it to be replaced. Okay, well, okay,
Well, yeah, I mean, trees, if it falls or whatever, and, well, I think if you don't need a permit if it falls during a storm.
right.
Yeah.
Well, why not? I mean, if it's removal of trees, you're taking a tree down in the right of way. We're saying you need to take it down. Then it should be, yeah, we want it to be replaced. So, and right now.
Could it be also, I know if it's not in the right of way, but if it has the potential to fall into the right of way, is it covered? If it's a hazardous tree, like if it's a dead tree and it will fall into, say it's a foot off, but it's gonna fall into the right of way or the cartway or whatever you wanna call it, can we say that? Because I know Springfield's that way, like if it's in the right of way, not in the right of way, but has the potential to damage the right of way or go into the right of way, you can recommend or whatever to.
Who's gonna determine?
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Which way? Yeah,
I mean, if it's obvious dead tree, I'm not talking to go inspect people's
how do you
property.
know which way it's gonna fall?
That's what I'm saying. Who's gonna manage?
If you see a dead tree and it's from here to that doorway
Who?
and
Who though?
who
Who?
what?
Us?
Who?
like as we drive around and see trees. that
Oh, you're
are-
saying if you drive around, yeah, I mean,
And see it, I'm not saying to go, you know what I'm saying, if it's seen or whatever and say it's gonna fall and hit cars in the roadway, and I know it's not in the right of way, but. Could we like notify them and recommend them or put it in there to, if it has the potential to? I don't know, what I'm asking.
I think the right of way is your definition. I think that's the limitation of your authority. So if it's outside, if it's inside the right
So
of
don't
way,
put it
I
in
think,
there, but if
and
we
it's,
see
and it's
something,
a
we can
hazardous
noti-
tree and
but
you, and it falls, or you identify it as a hazardous tree, requiring it to be cut down. I would agree with Trish that I think that you can then say, because it's in the right of way and it is a shade tree, you can replace it. However, I think that line is defining the limitation. It's either in it or it's out of it. If it's out of it, I don't think you have authority.
Right,
That's
as in
my
the
point.
ordinance wise, but if we see it and or drive around or whatever we do, and there's a big dead ash tree that's. 45 feet off the road and the tree's 100 foot tall, and you know it's gonna end up in the roadway, could, like, if we
Could
said.
possibly. Could
I think you
possibly.
can say it should come down because it's dangerous. And we can notify the people of
you
the
could-
hazardous.
The township could notify them?
Well, that, we talked about that a little earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a safety factor there and you're identifying a hazardous
But
tree.
putting that in the ordinance almost puts us on the hook for doing.
But what I'm
inspections.
saying is, don't put it in the ordinance, but we can still have the right to
Oh,
do
yeah,
it, even
yeah,
though it's not in the
yeah.
ordinance. Well, that's fine.
That's
then.
part of what you're saying with the education.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
You get into the weeds.
What's that?
You just got that. Move forward.
Okay, so we're good with making a recommendation that if there is a tree that we recommend that has to come down in the right of way because it's hazardous or whatever, that we're going to also recommend, include a recommendation to the board to replace that tree. And the board can decide whether or not they can, right? Because we're still only making recommendations to the board about hazardous trees too. Okay, I think that was kind of it for the changes. Oh, except for your comment, Rob, on here, it's in 158-6E.
Number again?
158-6, planting, maintaining, and removal of shade trees or public trees. And it's with respect to pruning, trimming, the thinning of shade trees. So Rob had suggested that this be removed from the ordinance. As well as a requirement that stumps need to be removed and spraying should be excluded. Okay. That was the only changes that I made that was different from the comments that we had provided
So
before.
we gotta get.
Yes,
Getting banned again. You send your version, are you,
I already sent it to Heather.
no, but I mean, are you editing it? Like, okay. Oh, they go to Heather, they probably should go to Andy.
I CC'd Andy.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so,
We wanna have Mr. Andy give Rich like some sort of like line for us. We wanna say, can we have this back by December meeting? And you
I
guys
think
have
by
to
the
do it.
December meeting would probably be fair, because there isn't a huge amount of substantive changes.
We have to have it. First we can all.
Yes.
I like to see the change. Basically coming back and rebuttal something. We can ask questions for why. So that when you're discussing it at the December meeting, say what Rich stated. You know what I mean?
Well, let me just suggest, I think at this point, the committee's made their suggestions and Rich has provided his suggestions from the original draft.
Right.
So I think at this point, Rich's role is to take both those sets of comments.
And make it a clean version.
No, I think what he wants to do is present this version to the board.
Oh.
Because it doesn't make sense to clean it up and then the board make changes. So I think they should identify the tracking, all the changes that have been made throughout time. And then discuss those changes. That way the board has an option to say, well, I understand this and I'd like that comment to stay, or I don't agree with that comment.
So
They
how did that kill us with time though, Andy?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that this version needs to be given to Rich so he can have a discussion with the board. So what I'll do is when I forward this to Rich tomorrow, I'll make note that the committee would like to keep the
Yeah.
momentum.
And maybe receive board comment by our December meeting?
Yeah, and I think at this point,
That's right.
I think at this point, it should be kind of like a goal to have it approved by the board by the end of the year. I mean, because I don't think passing comments back and forth is, because the board is the final set. So I think that they have your comments now, they have Rich's comments, and it's now just for a final kind of, okay, this is what we're going to
Are
decide.
you at those meetings, Andy?
Not always, not always. So, but I will share, I'll obviously share this latest version, with Mr.
So
Score.
would it be a meeting like a public meeting like this where you would explain it to them?
I think most of the time, they kind of, deliberate amongst themselves. That, they'll get the copy, they'll deliberate amongst themselves and may ask Rich some legal questions. And then he would, in more of an executive session, I think you can talk legal in an executive session. And then he would take whatever is said in that meeting, he would formalize it into an ordinance, the final draft of the ordinance. But I really think that that's what you're looking for, is the final draft of the ordinance.
Yeah,
And
I wasn't expecting that Rich would get us another set of comments and give us
no,
another
I
bite.
don't think we need to bat it around anymore. I think it needs to simply be presented to the board, have them make those final decisions. He would clean it up, he would then put it in a final draft format. It would be presented to the board in a public meeting, and they can recommend that draft for advertisement.
Mhm.
Once they do that, then Rich would go through the process of, we would advertise in the paper, we would make it available to the public here. It would be, I believe it has to go to the public law library as a draft ordinance. And then at that point in time, after that time frame elapses, then the board, I think I want to say it's 30 days that has to take place. Then they would come back to the next board meeting and make the final adoption.
Okay.
And at that point,
So, at what point, so the deliberation that would be happening with the Board of Supervisors with this draft, with our comments, would we have an opportunity, would we be, is it at a public meeting? Is it one of the regular
Well-
Board of Supervisor meetings, or would we?
No, I think at this point, the whole point of making your comments and keeping track of them is so they know where they're coming from. And I think at this point in time, it's in their hands to make the
Okay.
final decisions.
So the one problem is the way that the settings were on this Word document is that didn't delineate who made what comment. So it's hard to kind of figure out whose was Rich's and what was Shade Trees.
But I mean, he's gonna, here again, I
He'll do
don't
that.
know that it matters that much.
Okay.
They're the comments that are identified on on
Okay.
the draft
Okay.
document, right? And they can read those and decide whether or not they agree with that to be placed in the final draft.
Okay,
So, I mean, here again, to go back and forth, all that, I don't think we're there. I think we're beyond that. I think that everybody's had an opportunity to add their comments to this draft. And now it's just a simple decision as to what comments they want to accept, what comments they don't want to accept, and get it in more of a legal, into the legal process for formal adoption. They'll have those discussions amongst themselves, probably in an executive session, but then take the more formal actions in a public venue. So when that formal draft comes out, obviously they'll share it with the committee, and then certainly you can come to the public meeting when that happens. And if you want to have any other further considerations made, you can present it there at that time.
okay. Yeah, because I'm just wondering if there would be an opportunity if the board had questions as to some of our recommendations and why. And especially if Rich doesn't want to accept them. Because I think there's some things in here that I really feel strongly about, and I think others here do as well. And I just didn't know if we would have an opportunity to like have a, more of a face-to-face.
I mean, do I think we can ask him for the final draft before it goes to a formal approval to advertise? Can ask.
Yeah, or I guess I just don't understand the deliberative process with the board. I guess, is that just closed and would there be a way that maybe
Well,
one of us could be
I
invited?
mean, I
to?
think the deliberation between the comments can be done in executive session, but here again, I don't sit in those executive sessions.
Okay,
And I don't want to speak on the legalities of what
Sure.
can and can't take
Yeah.
place in them. In the public meeting, they will present that draft as ready to be advertised.
okay,
And at that draft, you'll have a copy of it, or it'll be on a public agenda.
okay,
And you can certainly access it through that and then appear before, at the public meeting
Okay.
at that time and say, we made this comment, it's been excluded from it, I feel strongly about it. But I mean, I think at this point, to bat it back and forth is just we're in this process quite some time now.
Right. all right. And just speaking of the December meeting, I noticed that it's on December 26th, I think.
Boxing Day.
I'm gonna be in Florida, so, it's just, but
Well,
anyway,
again, that's only a request, so.
Yeah,
We don't
okay.
know what's on the board's agenda. I know that you've got some
Okay.
land development stuff.
all right. Okay, that sounds good. All right, so, do we need to take any action at this point? Then it doesn't sound like it, right?
I mean,
Okay. Okay, we're good then. All right, moving on then. Update on the tree inventory. What's the status of the iPad?
On George today.
Okay,
Inventory will be tabled. Bring on these.
okay, all right,
I know that Suzanne's working, to try to get the addition. We had a couple iPads that were, I guess, obsolete for one reason or another. And so she's trying to negotiate with a vendor to hand them back in and get the iPads that have been requested.
okay, all right. Okay. Okay. All right, so Carol, did you want to give us an update on the fall tree planting? It's scheduled for November 9th, so that's next Saturday.
She said.
Oh, oh, thank God. 2 Saturdays away. That's right. Not this Saturday, but the following Saturday,
Right.
right? Okay. Okay,
Yes, so we had, so we've gone through, we had things sort of snuck up on us, so John, I did not get in touch with you for stakes, so we have the little flags. But I also had, some white paint, so we put a little circle.
Oh, good.
Because one person said that they were needed to mow, I said, well, pull the flags out, mow, and then you could stick the flags back in, so we have spots.
I know that George that was really urgent for him to have those locations marked so he could make the one call.
Right, so I went with Sheila and I went around, on Saturday. Sheila
EAC.
from the EAC.
Oh,
she's-
from the
EAC, yeah, I
Yeah,
know that. Jim, I thought-
EAC, and she's
Thought
the
she was a new Shade Tree member or something.
yeah, she lives on Beechwood, which
Okay.
is sort of cool, so.
I bet you.
And, yeah, so so I went around with her and, she brought out the people that, lived there and they were, talked about and she was like, she kept, referring to me now, Carol, what do you think about this? Cause so there was a couple trees we recommended. One was a really scrawny, blue spruce that needed to, go away. And there was also 2, really skinny, weird looking, calorie pears that needed to go bye-bye. And then the trees can go in. So it was fun sort of walking up and down the hills and meeting all the people and marking the spots and putting the flag in, and on the little flag, I wrote which tree it was. So, so that's all ready. There was apparently a couple people that had ordered 2 trees and now they only want 1. Not a problem. And then there was also, so there was a lot of like last minute things, last minute additions. And well, maybe we got these people on the waiting list. I'm like, Sheila, well, let's do the ones that we have now. And then we'll save the others for the next time. So we'll see how that goes. So we're pretty much ready for that. She went around a couple more times this week, apparently, and she's reminding people that weren't there when we went last week. She was going around getting their locations. She goes, all the locations she has set now, and reminding people to pay, which was the other thing. So yeah, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're getting closer. The other, before we escape, we can add an 8.4 to the agenda, the newsletter.
Well, hold on, before we
Okay.
move on to that, let's get an update from
Oh,
Rob
Rob on the
on the trees and
Definitely.
et cetera.
Talked to George today. All the trees are marked, so he can put the PA1 call in.
Yes,
Every resident, even though they didn't pay.
right.
Okay, so that's done, because that was his
According
concern.
to Sheila, they all have flags now.
Okay, trees are being dug. I asked him, because of the drought, what's the deal with that? He's like, they're digging them as per they would like a summer dig, because they haven't had a frost yet in Maryland. I don't know what, he said they trench do something special because it's a summer dig. George got the bill. It's going to the supervisors on Monday so they can draw a check so the vendor can get paid. The PA1 call has to be done, so they're all marked, so does George know that they're all marked now? I can call him.
I haven't talked to George. I don't know that. he
I can let
knows.
him know that they're all marked, because it's gonna take them a while to do all of the
Yeah.
markings.
Right.
And then, someone said they wanted a pink dogwood. There's no pink dogwoods.
Okay,
Okay,
They're all white. It
Okay.
is what it is. So,
so we didn't know. It's
I-
like They had similar names. That's why I texted you. Thank you for answering right away. And someone was talking about the birch. I was like, what kind of birch? And then when you said that it was a river birch, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, cool. I'm thinking Bechalolenta, yeah. But river birch is cool. They're very excited about that.
I think that's it.
All right, and then.
Oh,
so-
they're gonna be delivered to the street on, and George is gonna help unload them as I'm digging, and I don't know if Dan's gonna help or not. He said something about it, but he's not here to ask him, so.
Okay, and then, so that's on the 8th,
8th.
and the 8th, we're doing that, right?
So the
Friday,
tr-
the
and the
night
tree-
before,
so-
And
right?
yes, I'm gonna cover the holes for you.
What's this?
I'm gonna cover the holes for you when they're dug.
Oh, thank you.
Good for you. You're a good man.
So no dog falls in it
That's
at
right.
night.
Oh, yeah.
And then did we select a time that we were going to start? I didn't see that in Sheila's,
No, she didn't mention that.
so,
How
I
many volunteers does she have?
well, the homeowners are gonna be planting their own tree. We're there to provide support.
But there's no additional help?
There's certain things we hadn't thought through very, very well yet.
I don't know. Is there? Don't look at me. I'm not orchestrating this one.
I don't think the volunteers.
I don't do volunteers.
Does,
Somebody better call Cindy. It's gonna be massive volunteer.
I'm sure we can make it happen. I mean, really, but the whole point was that the homeowners were supposed to plant the trees, not us. We were there to provide support, so they're vested and have skin in the game
I'm sure
here.
some of the residents are as old as Carol's mom.
Well, those people, we will help.
Okay,
I mean, I think,
if you know what I mean. What's that?
Stop it.
yeah, I mean,
I
mean,
you all be.
She knows how to plant trees. I don't have to worry about that.
I'm gonna be there. I'm probably. Can you like not do that? Thank you. Not to be a mom or anything, you know. Where was I? So we're gonna be there. All of us are gonna be there. I'm sure Sheila and Cindy will also be there, and maybe other members from the EAC. I don't think we need an army of people unless you,
We
because,
almost, if everybody comes out of their house at the same time to plant their tree, we're going to need about 25 people so that each household has one person assisting them saying, green side up. Right?
The birch trees aren't big, they're pots. So they're not gonna be big. The other ones will be Alden Berlin.
Bye.
Later.
okay, so,
You text me where the address is starting on that Saturday. I might stop by.
all right, we're gonna probably meet at Sheila's, so we'll,
Somebody send me that address.
yeah, 'cause she's gonna have a tent apparently and refreshments.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, it'll be the township tent, I believe. Okay, all right,
What were we
volunteers,
talking about?
volunteers,
Voluntold.
well, so,
I mean, I'll be there, obviously,
well, I mean, we
with
could-
machinery. I just wanna know
we'll
what,
figure it out. All right, let me see, I'll reach out to you. Okay, I'll reach out. I will make a commitment to reach out to Sheila and Cindy and talk
Well,
about.
Cindy's off at her daughter's wedding or something, or son's wedding or something. So we'll just go right to Sheila.
Okay. Okay, do that. All right. And then, because we need to nail down the time and stuff, so, okay, we'll do that. When do you, I'm not gonna be able to help on Friday, but,
That's,
but I'll
you
certainly.
just be in the way. No, I'm kidding.
I'm
kidding.
But anyhow, but maybe,
I mean, I'll have one of my workers.
okay, all right,
I'll be good.
okay, fantastic,
And
okay,
I'm sure Dan said something.
yeah, I'm sure he'll help. Okay, all right, I think it's coming together, so how about we just, we'll just communicate about the logistics and,
Yeah, most important thing is the PA one call. and see
right,
if we have to
so,
move something.
and you're gonna, and you're
And
gonna,
what's these trees that have to be cut down or something beforehand? Are they doing it? You said they're in the way where they marked?
Well,
You
the
said they-
trees weren't marked as for removal, but Sheila knows which ones they are. I was like, they're very sad looking things. But yeah, Sheila was having somebody come to her house and one gal wanted, he was going to give her an estimate for knocking those things down. And she was like, well, if it was just me, I could, she could basically, you could do a handsaw and knock them out.
I just wanna know if
So-
they're going by the time I get there to,
They
Yeah.
better, yeah, they better.
or am I gonna like excavate them out and lay it in the front?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
Alright.
you'll need to do that.
all right. Okay, that sounds good, all right. Okay, so let's just, we'll just text logistics and we'll make it
We'll
happen,
figure it out.
Okay.
Got it.
all right. Okay. Any public comment?
Wait a minute, I have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have an 8.4 that I
I
want to
have-
stick in
Okay,
there.
well, you needed to add that. And number 4, I asked, did anybody have any additions to the agenda?
I haven't read that far down on the page yet.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so newsletter, we put nothing in October into the newsletter. So we sort of fell flat on that one.
I thought John was gonna
To do it.
do it.
Well, he didn't get me anything either, so I didn't remind him. So basically, for October was supposed to be Ms. Adams. And she was going to be doing an article on trees and erosion. Maybe we can get her to do that for November.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
See, you were
And we
old
did-
again.
I was voluntold.
So we're gonna move October, which we didn't do anything.
So
for,
we're gonna
down to
do this for November.
Yep, and then we're gonna need one for December.
Why don't we do like trees for turkeys or something?
You can do whatever you want. I
Alright.
don't care what the topic is, just so I've got.
All right,
something
I got it. All right, no worries.
By the
Okay,
10th.
by the 10th, when do you,
Yes.
of November you need it by?
Yes. They,
Okay,
it gives us a couple days.
all right, and then how many words, paragraphs, how long, how short?
I don't know, did we do anything in this one? Who knows?
Let me see the cover.
There's stormwater management stuff.
Oh, that was, I thought that was the most recent.
No,
No, it had like.
no,
pumpkin
that
corn.
one was pretty pathetic. I didn't even,
What's that?
the one that just came out.
Was it like leaves and pumpkins or something? I don't know
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah, but it was. Anyway, basically, nothing this long, just, if we can grab a picture or two, something that's gonna be like that.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be a whole lot, so you can
Can I
put
have
the dog in.
Hamilton in it?
You can put Hamilton in it if you
All right,
want.
maybe
yeah.
Hamilton playing in the leaves in the creek.
Exactly.
All right, okay, all right.
Whatever topic you want, as long as I have something
Well,
to turn in, that'd be great.
And then maybe, because I know we've been hammering, leave the leaves, kind of thing, all right. Okay, anyway, all right, okay, I'll do
So
that.
that's it, that's for that.
Dang it. All right, public comment, none.
None.
Items for next agenda, we had talked about that. We're going to be, the things that we tabled under new business will be on the next agenda. So with that, we